Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. Now, I guess many parents want to know the answer to this question, right? How many grades will my child improve if I sign him or her up for tuition? Okay, so this is what this video is going to be about. And I have some example scenarios that we can talk about. And then hopefully it will help you to decide whether you want to sign up your child for tuition or not. So how much improvement can I expect, right, if I sign the child up for tuition? To answer that question, I think we have to start by considering the starting base of the child. All right. So the lower the starting base, the more room for improvement. All right. Okay. And I think for the sake of this video, we are just going to remove the exceptional cases, right? I think for every year, about 1 or 2 out of 10 belong to the exceptional cases. So those are the ones who make more than a 2-grade jump, right, within a year. Okay, and there are those who make little to no improvements, right? We will still get that. So we are not going to talk about those, right? We are going to talk about the typical scenarios, right? The scenarios that apply to most parents and students. Okay, so what can we expect from the arrangement? Now, on average, most students actually are able to improve about 2 grades with at least a year of tuition. And you want to see the arrangement in its full context. That's not an easy feat to achieve, right? Because the syllabus continue to be harder each year, okay? And the child is always trying to reach for better grades. So the child has to work hard to not just learn the new syllabus for each year, right? The more advanced syllabus for each year, he has to exceed that, right, in order for the grades to jump. All right, so even for some students, jumping 1 grade is a big achievement, right? Because they have been having problems trying to catch up. And for students who are able to jump 2 grades, right, within a year, usually they're ecstatic and they should be very happy. Okay, and we'll talk more a little bit about this later on. So for example, like a student starting with a C grade can look forward to receiving a B grade by the end of the year. We'll discuss this in more detail when we look at the actual scenarios. And most of my students actually fall under this profile. So for secondary school students, you're getting like C5, C6, and we jump 2 grades, that's a B. All right. So you can see, how different, right, the grade will look on the result slip. Okay, especially when it's a national exam. Now let's start by taking a look at some of the more common scenarios, and I'll try to share my own experiences within the video as well. And we start from the lower grades, right? And we have a student here who is failing English, scoring D7 or lower, right? And these are actually the more challenging cases. The student needs to do retests to be promoted. And so the parents check with the student to find out the root cause of the issue. And sometimes the root cause may be too deep rooted, right? For example, some attitude problems, right? Some mindset issue, right? Some students are just like, just didn't want to put in the effort, right? Or for whatever reason. And they're so deep rooted that it's really, really challenging to get through to the students. So tuition may or may not help. Now, the recommendation is if tuition is a possible remedy, then of course you should not hesitate, because time is very important. Okay, sign the child up for tuition immediately. All right, but also do remember to set a realistic goal and try to help the student to attain a pass grade. All right, I think that goes for both. For all stakeholders, right? For the tutors, the school teachers, for the parents. To try to support the child, right? To set a realistic goal, and hopefully, just to get that pass. And just sharing my experience here, I think I've tried to help students who are failing, and the moment they are able to achieve a passing grade, it really gives them a lot of confidence, right? And for the success cases, I do have students who redevelop their interest in the subject, and then after that, the grades is just moving on an upward trend. Okay, so tuition do help for some students, all right, but I've also seen students where the root cause, okay, is something to do with the mindset and the attitude, and it's so deep rooted until it doesn't matter what you say, right? It doesn't matter how you change your teaching. The student is just not going to listen. He's just not going to learn. Continue to be stubborn, and for those students, the tuition actually is not effective at all. All right, so there's something to look out for. Okay, so let's move on to the next example scenario. So the student is getting a C6 in English, right? And I do get a bunch of such students, and the child is at risk of failing, right? Now I say C6, and I'm talking in general about secondary school students, but you can also apply the same, just take a look at what I'm trying to say, right? Apply the same point to like PSLE or N-levels, right? It's the same issue that's being discussed. And the child is still motivated to do well and request for tuition, right? And child says, I'm getting C6, mom, dad, right? And I need some help, okay? So after chatting with the students, the parents realize that the child needs additional help. Now let's pause a while later. What if the child is at risk of failing and the child is not motivated, right? So the parents realize that the child needs help. The parents is willing to pay for the tuition, but the child is unwilling. So in that case, I think there's a 50% chance that the tuition may not work out because we do not have the cooperation of the child, right? The goals are not aligned. So in that case, the tuition arrangement may just fail, right? Then it's just a waste of money and time on everyone's part. So the recommendation, if the child is still motivated, right? And once you can get the child on board to just go and attend lessons, do sign up the child immediately, all right? Next scenario, student is getting a B4 in English, and this is one of my favorite group of students to get because they're not failing, right? They are really passing, having a confident grade. All other subjects are mostly getting A1 and B3, and you can see that if the student is getting B4, there's a risk of getting down to regress down to C5. All right, so it's concerning, and the child is highly motivated and requests for tuition from parents. So of course, in this case, recommendation is to sign the child up for tuition to bolster the English grade, right? And this can make a huge difference for admission purposes, right? There's a difference between B3 and B4, and most courses actually consider B3 to be the minimum proficiency grade, right? So if you get B3 and above, you don't have to worry about not having a good enough English grade for whatever course that you choose, okay? So and besides, right, if all the other subjects are mostly getting A's and A1 and A2 and B3, and then you get a B4 or C5, right, for English, the result slip doesn't look so good. All right, so and I do have a student after 1 year of tuition for N-levels, right? And she falls into this profile, and her English got A1, right? And that's great because it aligns, looks very good, okay, on the result slip, and she's ecstatic about the results, right? Okay, but what about those students who are getting a B3 and above in English, right? So these students are really doing very well. Now the child is academically inclined and can do well in his or her studies. So I think for this group of students, even with or without external help, they tend to do reasonably well. They can read on their own. They can just pick up stuff and just learn fast, right? And the child absorbs knowledge like a sponge and would like to go for further enrichment. So I remember I once taught a student from River Valley High. He is from China, right? So being from China, they have a Chinese speaking background. Okay, Chinese is very strong. Okay, but because there's nobody around to speak English, so the child needs a little bit of help with English, right? So, but the child is very easy to teach, right? He has close to perfect memory and remembers the teaching very well, and of course, as a result, do well, do quite well in school. Okay, and the tuition is just there to support him. All right, and the child gets bored easily, okay, and find the lessons in school too slow. Right, so in that case, the recommendation is to sign the child up for challenging lessons. Right, you want to find a tutor that can challenge the child, right, and so that he continues to enjoy the learning, and he can enrich himself and develop himself further. Okay, so that's about all I have in this video. So in summary, okay, expect noticeable improvements within about 3 to 6 months. I think less than 3 months is a little bit too short, right? Because less than 3 months, maybe we just complete one cycle, right, of teaching the paper 1 and paper 2. And usually around the 5th month, 6th month, right, you should see some noticeable improvements. Now, it is typical to get a 1 to 2 grade jump, okay, improvement within a year. All right, so you can imagine for those students who started with C6, lower sec, right, and then they jump to B, right, and then we're looking to move the grade up to A. Sometimes they do not get that, they drop to B. So not a lot of my students who fall into that profile and who have been with me long enough, they tend to hover around like A2, B3, A2, B3, right, and they can sail through their secondary school years, right, quite smooth sailing, right, not a problem. Understand the starting point of the child, right, and set realistic goals. So do be reminded that always try to get the child on board for the tuition, because I do have students who come here for trial lessons, and they are paid trials, by the way, right, and the students review that they are forced to come here, right. So as a result, we don't get that level of cooperation from the student. They refuse to do homework, they try they just misbehave, okay, and that's not a good starting point, right. And setting realistic goals is also very important, okay. And sometimes I feel that some parents are a little bit out of touch with the child's education journey, right, and they do not really look at their work, and they just take a number, pluck the number out of thin air, right, and then just say, oh, I want AL1. It's good to set high goals, right, set high standards. I say, well, that's like in theory, sounds very good, right, but we have to think about the practical aspects. Okay, is it realistic for the child to be achieving AL1, right, okay, or to be achieving an A1, okay, in English when he's getting like say C5, okay. So these are issues that need to be worked out, and hopefully if you decide to sign up for tuition, right, you are able to see results that are being discussed in this video. All right, so I'm going to end this video right here. So if you find this video to be useful, do leave a like and subscribe, okay, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So thank you very much for watching, and for those of you who are serious to sign up for English lessons, please visit englishttuition.org for more details, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.